This adventurous story begins by showing a family where a woman named Amanda lives with her husband Clay and their two children, Rose and Archie. At first glance, the family appears perfectly normal, living a cheerful and happy life, but Amanda's behavior is noticeably aggressive. While Clay and the children are calm and playful in nature, Amanda is short-tempered, dislikes socializing with others, and gets angry over small things. Clay and the kids are already exhausted by her attitude, but since she is his wife and an important part of the family, leaving her is not an option, so they somehow continue living together. Both Amanda and Clay are working parents, which is why they are unable to give much time to their children. One weekend morning, however, Amanda is in an unusually good mood and tells Clay that she feels very happy and wants to truly enjoy the weekend with the family. She quickly plans a trip and books a hotel near the beach so the entire family can relax and enjoy their time together. Seeing Amanda happy after so long makes Clay feel relieved, and he supports the plan while getting the kids ready for the trip. Everyone feels excited, imagining how much fun they will have at the beach, and soon the family packs their belongings and drives off for the vacation, unaware of the massive danger looming over the earth that is about to begin. During the journey, Amanda talks affectionately with Rose and Archie after a long time, admitting how much she loves them and calling her family the best in the world, which surprises Clay and the children, but they let it continue. After several hours of travel, they arrive at the hotel, unpack their bags, and start enjoying the amenities, with the kids having fun near the pool while Clay goes inside to do some work. Amanda heads to the market to buy snacks and supplies for the family, and while loading the groceries into her car, she notices a man nearby carrying an unusually large quantity of food, far more than what a normal family would need to survive for days. Confused by his behavior, Amanda briefly meets his gaze before returning to her task and heading back to the hotel fully stocked with food for several days. The family then decides to go to the beach, believing that relaxing by the shoreline is the best experience, and they sit together while the kids play in the sand. Suddenly, Rose notices a massive ship out at sea moving steadily toward the shore. The ship is enormous and advancing continuously, which terrifies Rose and Archie, but Clay reassures them that it is far away and will likely change direction. Everyone relaxes for a moment, but as time passes, they realize the ship is not changing course, and with its constant speed, it continues moving straight toward the beach. After some time, even Clay and Amanda begin to feel scared, so they tell their children to leave the area immediately. Everyone keeps staring at the massive ship, wondering why it is heading toward the beach instead of the harbor, and within moments, the ship crashes directly into the shore, causing heavy destruction. Amanda and Clay grab their children and run to the side as the entire beach is evacuated due to the accident. After speaking with security, they are told that a technical failure likely caused the crash because the ship's electronic systems suddenly stopped working. What is even more shocking is when the security officer reveals that similar ship accidents have happened in other locations as well, suggesting a simultaneous electronic short circuit, which feels extremely strange. However, Amanda and Clay choose not to waste time thinking about it and return to their hotel room with the kids. While freshening up, Amanda notices that the internet is completely down, making it impossible to order food online or access anything at all, as if the internet has vanished entirely. Ignoring the situation, Amanda and Clay cook a proper meal using the groceries she bought earlier, and the family enjoys a pleasant dinner together, fully immersed in their vacation mood. After dinner, the children go to sleep while Amanda and Clay stay up talking and sharing a private, intimate moment, but suddenly there is a knock at the door late at night. When they open it, they find a man named Scott standing there with his daughter, speaking politely and apologizing for the interruption while explaining that he is the owner of the house. He reminds Amanda that she had contacted him to book the house for a week so her family could enjoy their vacation, but now he and his daughter have returned because the area where they live is facing power and electricity shortages, making it difficult for them to stay there. Amanda and Clay find this situation uncomfortable, as it is supposed to be their family time and the owner cannot simply show up like this after taking full payment. Scott apologizes again, acknowledges the payment, and assures them he is not asking them to leave, only requesting permission to stay quietly in a separate room for a few days, promising not to disturb their privacy and even offering to refund the entire payment as compensation. Seeing this, Clay feels that Scott might genuinely need help and chooses not to object, but Amanda strongly disagrees, insisting that no stranger should stay during their family vacation, even if he is the owner, and firmly tells Scott that this is unacceptable and that he should leave and return only after their vacation is over. As the argument continues, Clay and Amanda step aside to talk privately, struggling to decide whether they should let Scott and his daughter stay. Clay feels that Scott and his daughter seem completely normal and wonders where they would even go at such a late hour, but Amanda remains stubborn and insists that they must leave no matter what. After a long discussion, Clay and Amanda return to speak with Scott and his daughter again, as Clay wants clear answers about why Scott has really come and what kind of emergency in the city forced him to stay here. Scott does not go into detail and only explains that there are ongoing power shortages and electrical failures in the city, so he wants to stay in open air with his daughter for safety, which sounds reasonable to both of them, and they finally allow Scott and his daughter to stay. Soon after, Scott's daughter turns on the television, but due to the internet outage, only a single signal appears on the screen, a government broadcast displayed across all channels, leaving everyone confused and assuming it is just another technical issue. That night, everyone goes to sleep, but there is a strange tension on Scott's face, as if he knows something important but is hiding it from the others. By morning, the internet is still down, and Rose wakes her mother because she wants to watch her favorite show, growing irritated when she cannot. Amanda and Clay also wake up, unable to understand why the internet has not returned, and Clay steps outside to ask nearby people if there is any way to restore the connection. Amanda notices multiple alarming messages on her phone talking about the end of the world and everything coming to an end, which terrifies her and sends her straight to Scott, where she also informs his daughter about the messages. Scott's daughter confirms that the internet is truly gone, but Scott tries to calm everyone by saying it will recover, explaining that something similar happened years ago when the global internet shut down due to a technical issue and the government eventually took strict action to restore it, so he urges them not to take the situation too seriously. Even so, it feels like Scott is hiding the real truth, avoiding panic and fear for both his daughter and Amanda's family, while internally knowing that something far worse is about to happen. Meanwhile, in the garden area, Rose hears strange sounds and moves toward the bushes, where she suddenly sees a large herd of deer standing together and staring at her. She is confused because such timid animals usually stay deep in the forest, and their sudden appearance in such large numbers suggests that something dangerous is driving them out, a threat that is about to be revealed. Scott also grows increasingly worried about his daughter's safety and goes to check on a friend, only to find his friend's house completely ransacked, as if a robbery has taken place, with no sign of his friend anywhere. The scene then shifts to Amanda's husband Clay driving his car, unaware of what is unfolding, following the GPS until it suddenly stops working altogether. When the screen suddenly goes completely blank, Clay has no idea where to go, so he pulls over and starts checking for technical issues in the car. Suddenly, a panicked woman approaches him, saying she has been wandering around for days, has no sense of direction, and desperately needs to make an important call. As Clay tries to help her, the situation quickly turns chaotic because the woman becomes extremely hysterical, frightening him enough that he drives away and leaves her behind. Moments later, Clay looks up at the sky and notices a plane moving straight toward him, dropping strange red-colored objects from above. Thinking it is an attack, he turns his car around to escape, but as the plane comes closer, he realizes it is not bombing anything but scattering red papers covered in writing he cannot understand, so he picks one up and rushes back toward his family. The scene then shifts to Scott, who has taken a satellite phone from his friend's house, knowing that no matter how many electronic devices fail, a satellite phone should work under any conditions, and he becomes busy trying to connect it. Meanwhile, Rose and her brother Archie are shown traveling and reaching a wooden cabin, where Rose tells Archie about the deer she saw staring at her near the house, but Archie does not believe her and instead starts making up even scarier stories to tease her, as the siblings continue their playful banter, unaware that a far more dangerous reality is about to unfold. When Scott tests the satellite phone in an open area, he is shocked to find that there is no signal at all, which is extremely unsettling. As he continues traveling, Scott looks toward the beach area and freezes in horror when he sees a passenger plane that has crashed, with wreckage scattered everywhere and all the passengers dead, an enormous disaster that no one seems to know about. Surrounded by human bodies, Scott panics, and before he can process it, another plane appears out of control, heading directly toward the same beach where he is standing, forcing him to run for his life back toward the house. The plane crashes violently into the shore, sending massive waves of water rushing forward, and although Scott makes it inside, the water begins flooding the house. With disasters happening simultaneously everywhere, it feels as if humanity is on the verge of extinction. Terrified, Scott rushes back to Amanda and his daughter, still trying not to scare them, casually claiming he fell into the pool, while his daughter Ruth goes to fetch clothes. Once she leaves, Scott finally begins to reveal part of the truth to Amanda, admitting that something is terribly wrong, and as Amanda panics over her husband not answering his calls and having no idea where he is, Scott tells her everything about the planes crashing, passengers dying, and the realization that this is not a technical failure but a full-scale disaster unfolding across the world. A disaster like this is unfolding in waves, one after another, and hearing this leaves Amanda completely stunned. She suddenly remembers the man she saw at the supermarket loading an unusually large amount of food, realizing that he must have had some idea that such a situation was coming. At that moment, Scott reveals that the man was actually his friend and that he has just come from his house, where no one was present. Scott explains another disturbing truth: his friend had received information about these events in advance, which is why he had prepared so thoroughly, but now it is clear that everyone is trapped. This realization pushes Amanda into complete panic, and as she rushes outside to look for her children, a deafening sound suddenly fills the air, so intense that no one can even process it, forcing everyone to cover their ears because such a high-frequency noise was beyond anything they had ever experienced. Within moments, Amanda's children run back inside, and Scott tells them that this is not a sound created by humans but something far beyond their understanding. Sitting together, they silently pray for survival, and suddenly Clay arrives holding the same red paper, explaining that a plane had been dropping these everywhere. Their son Archie recognizes the language and reads it aloud, revealing its terrifying message that everyone is going to die. Overwhelmed with fear for their children, Amanda and Clay decide they cannot stay there any longer and tell Scott that they are leaving for the city. Scott desperately tries to stop them, warning that the city is the worst possible place and that staying here is safer, but Amanda and Clay are too frightened to listen. They quickly pack their belongings, put the children in the car, and drive away, while Scott watches helplessly, deciding that no matter what happens, he will stay there with his child. As Amanda and Clay head toward the city road with their kids, they suddenly see a horrifying sight ahead, with multiple cars crashed into each other and the road completely blocked. They step out of their car to assess the situation, realizing that this could not be a simple technical failure affecting so many vehicles at once, and sensing that something far worse is unfolding, just as another car approaches from behind, blaring its horn loudly. At first, Amanda signals the approaching driver to stop so they can help, but within moments it becomes clear that the car is completely out of control. She and Clay immediately put their children back into their car and move aside just in time, narrowly avoiding a collision as the other vehicle barely misses them. Realizing how dangerous the situation has become, they understand that staying there is impossible, so all four of them turn back toward Scott's house. Apologizing to Scott, they return and ask to stay again, and Scott shows no resentment at all, understanding that in such conditions people will naturally need help. Everyone quickly freshens up, but one thought keeps running through their minds: whether they will survive any of this. Clay sits with Scott's daughter Ruth, talking casually to ease the tense atmosphere, while inside the house Amanda questions Scott about what is really going on. Scott reveals an important detail, explaining that his friend is extremely wealthy and receives advance information about major events, which is why he built a large, well-equipped house with bunkers designed to withstand massive disasters, stocked with resources to last for months. Scott admits, however, that he has no idea where his friend has relocated this base. Suddenly, a noise draws everyone toward the pool, where they are stunned to see an entire flock of flamingos floating in the water. It feels unnatural, since flamingos usually live in rivers or forest lakes, not in artificial pools built by humans, making it clear that wild animals and birds are abandoning the forests and moving into human areas, just like the earlier herd of deer. Even Scott has no explanation for this, as he is experiencing it all for the first time himself. Moments later, another high-frequency sound rips through the air, causing unbearable pain in their ears and sending everyone running back inside in terror as the flamingos scatter and fly away. Archie suffers the worst pain because he did not cover his ears in time, and shaken by fear, everyone decides to go to sleep after tightly locking all the doors and windows. Amanda's family sleeps together on one bed, while Scott lies down nearby with his daughter, hoping to make it through the night. The entire day has been extremely difficult for them, and everyone knows it. Somehow they manage to get through the night, waking up in the morning hoping that everything will be fine and that this was all just a nightmare. But when Amanda's son Archie wakes up, he starts feeling pain in his teeth, and as soon as he touches one, it falls out. The same pain spreads across all his teeth, which keep falling out one after another, and in his panic, Archie even begins pulling them out himself. He tells his parents what is happening, leaving everyone completely shocked, and even Scott cannot understand what kind of strange mutation is affecting the child. Archie's condition worsens rapidly, and with no medicines available, they all sit together trying to figure out what to do. Scott then tells Amanda and Clay that they must go to the man Amanda saw stockpiling food at the supermarket, who is actually Scott's friend, and since Scott knows his address, he immediately leaves with Clay and Archie. Scott believes his friend must have some kind of medicine that could help Archie, so they drive straight to the man's house and knock on the door. A man named Danny appears at the window, but instead of showing happiness at seeing his old friend, he acts cold and cautious. Scott clearly tells Danny that they need help because Clay's son has developed a mysterious illness, but Danny firmly instructs them to stay at a distance from his house and says he will only listen if they follow his rules. Confused by his behavior, Scott tries to explain that Archie is in the car and that his teeth have been falling out since morning, leaving him too weak to even walk. Only then does Danny respond calmly, saying this is not new and that many people are experiencing both hair and tooth loss after exposure to a strange high-frequency sound. Clay and Scott confirm that they heard the same sound and covered their ears, but Archie did not, leading Danny to explain that this specific frequency is the cause of such effects. It severely affects the human brain and weakens multiple immune systems, and upon hearing this, Clay begins to beg Danny to help save his son, but Danny flatly refuses and tells them to leave because he no longer wants to help anyone. Scott is furious at his friend's behavior, reminding him of all the time they spent together and insisting that this is not who Danny truly is, but Danny explains that everything has changed and that he will now think only about his own family. He warns that dangerous people are roaming around, desperate to loot others, and that his own family has already been attacked several times, so he is unwilling to take any more risks. The argument between Scott and Danny escalates as both men shout at each other, until the heated moment reaches a breaking point and they draw their weapons, with Danny aiming a shotgun and Scott pulling out his pistol, both on the verge of firing. At that moment, Clay steps in and stops them, explaining that even if they kill each other, their families will suffer the most, left alone in a world where the government has completely collapsed and survival now depends on supporting one another. Clay calmly appeals to Danny's conscience, asking him to think like a parent and saying that if Archie were Danny's own son, he would do everything possible to save him. Hearing this, Danny backs down, Scott lowers his gun, and Danny finally provides some medicine, which he gives to Archie, assuring them that it will help him recover gradually, though the condition will not be completely cured. While relieved, Scott and Clay realize that Danny knows far more than he is admitting, and when they press him for information, Danny explains that this could be the work of hostile nations that deeply resent the United States, pointing out that as America has grown more powerful, it has also made many enemies, and suggesting that countries like North Korea or China may be behind the events unfolding around them. Scott and Clay are completely shocked after hearing this because until now they believed everything was caused by natural disasters that no human group could create, but Danny's explanation makes it clear that this could be the work of hostile countries. The strange sounds people have been hearing are likely being generated by enemy nations to confuse the population and collapse authority, after which a full-scale attack would begin. After saying this, Danny leaves, and Scott and Clay get back into the car and try to drive away, but after thinking it through, Scott becomes convinced that this theory makes sense. He explains that he has heard of strategies where, before attacking, the smarter country completely shuts down the enemy's internet infrastructure, leaving people unable to communicate and causing massive damage across every sector. By the time officials realize what is happening, it is already too late, and then those countries use the strange high-frequency sounds to mislead both humans and animals, causing severe problems and even mutations in the human brain. Clay also begins to accept this as the only explanation because everything is unfolding exactly as Scott described, and now all they can do is wait for the destruction that will be caused when humans turn against one another. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Amanda, who goes to Scott's daughter Ruth and asks about her own daughter Rose, who is nowhere to be found, causing Amanda to panic. They immediately head toward the forest, calling out for her, and soon Ruth hears bushes rustling and moves closer, only to discover a large group of deer and other animals gathered there, staring at her in a disturbing way as if they might attack at any moment. Just in time, Amanda arrives and screams loudly, frightening the animals and forcing them to scatter, but even after that, Rose is still missing. They still cannot confirm where she is or even whether she is alive when a massive explosion suddenly shakes the area. Amanda and Ruth rush toward the nearby high ground and look out over the city, where towering skyscrapers and buildings are collapsing one after another. Explosions echo in every direction, mixed with the screams of people, signaling that the moment has finally begun when countless civilians will start killing one another to seize resources and weapons, exactly what those hostile countries wanted and have now successfully achieved. The only relief is that as long as Amanda and her family remain in the forest region, they are relatively safe. The scene then shifts to Rose, who is calmly eating inside a luxurious house filled with every modern comfort, and the shocking truth is that this is the same house Scott mentioned earlier, owned by his wealthy friend, fully stocked with food, supplies, electricity, and even a perfectly functioning internet connection. Rose eats freely there, unaware of who allowed her inside, and spends her time watching her favorite series from a large collection of movies and show tapes, completely unaware of the chaos outside and the fact that the entire country is on the brink of destruction. The story ends here with this uncertain and haunting conclusion.